Gonna build a mountain from a little hill. Gonna build a mountain.
Hey there, YouTube friends, Mass Bandit here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Oh, look, another Planet Coaster video is hitting the internet. You haven't seen enough of those yet, have you? Sorry, I know I posted the one I did back in April when the announcement first dropped, and just like then, I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video, and I wasn't planning on it, but now that all this stuff has come out and we've got our first look at in-game footage, and after they did such a nice job of showing off what the game's looking like, I thought I'd come back and do another list here. The way I did my first video is I just kind of wrote down some questions I had. And so what I did this time is I have a whole list of pros and some cons and some questions I still have after all the information that's dropped. So you're not going to get anything. I'm not going to break down anything. I'm not going to be going over individual things. Like I said in my last Planet Zoo video, I don't have inside knowledge. I don't have any inside info. That's not me. What I do have is a passion for zoos and a passion for these types of games. And I have to tell you, I am way more excited now than I was in my first video. I'm really impressed with what they're showing. And we'll talk about that. So let's just run through my bulleted list here. So if you don't know, if you're living under a rock, Planet Zoo is coming to you. It's coming to all of us on November 5th. But apparently there's going to be a beta this summer. And just like Planet Coaster, if you buy the deluxe edition, that will give you access to the beta. So you have to pay a little extra to play early. I did that for Planet Coaster, and I don't regret it. I think I might do that for this as well, just so I can get my hands on this title as soon as possible. So I'm excited. So after all the E3 info, and after everybody, I watched some people break down the videos. I listened to what Frontier had to say, listened to what some of the people I trust on YouTube had to say. Here's some things that I found that I really enjoyed. Number one, I really enjoy the look of the animals. I mean, just look at them. When we got the in-game footage, and here is what they showed, their live gameplay demo, I think is what they called it. I mean, just look at the animals throughout the video here. They are just stunning. I think I'm most impressed actually by the crocodiles and the shine they have when they're wet and all that stuff. I think that, and I mentioned this, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in my previous video, Frontier is great from a visual and audio sense. They're gonna nail that portion of it for sure. So, but it feels like animals are their true kind of passion. Like this zoo game feels like a real passion project for them. So I'm kind of excited for that. I'm excited that the terrain paints have purpose. If you watched the video with the commentary on, they talk about how you have to provide soil and grass and all that stuff for your animals. And each animal requires a different amount. And to me, that seems very, very similar to what they did in Jurassic World Evolution regarding plains, forests, and water. You need to have a certain amount of grassland, a certain amount of forest for each dinosaur variety. And it appears that it's going to be like that for this, only on steroids. You're going to have a lot more things you'll have to balance to keep those animals happy, which points to deeper simulation, which is one of the nitpicks we can say about Planet Coaster, is that simulation is not nearly as deep as I think they intended or we originally anticipated. So maybe this terrain paint thing will help deepen the simulation here for Planet Zoo. So I was really excited to see that they did, speaking of simulation, they did backstage paths, and that they actually took the time to model interiors and animations for inside the staff buildings. I think that's pretty cool. You'll be able to see your zookeepers chop up foods and bring them over to your animals. You'll be able to have backstage passes, backstage paths for your workers. I think that's great. It seems like they took a big page from the Parkitect playbook. Parkitect, one of my favorite parts of that is how you have to think about backstage and front of the house and how they connect, and not to disrupt the viewer or the patron experience. I think that's super cool, and I'm really glad to see that they're doing that. And actually, for me personally, that makes me really excited if they ever decide to do a Planet Coaster 2, that they'll take these kinds of ideas and implement them in a Planet Coaster 2. So that's super exciting, I think. So also at the end of this video here, they show off weather, and they didn't get too much into it, but the simple fact that there is weather is going to be great. And I'm super pumped to hear that the scenery will block the weather. So like You can build a little shelter for them with your piece by piece stuff, and the animals will hide from the weather, from the rain under that. I think that's super cool. I think they mentioned about how different animals have different biomes. I'm curious, and this is more of a question that I should have asked for later. Like, for an animal that might live in the desert, but you don't have a desert climate on your map, are there going to be ways to simulate that? Or like an animal that prefers an Arctic biome, will you have air conditioning units and stuff? That's something that could be really interesting, and then that could potentially mess with how your simulation has to go. It seems like there's a lot of opportunity for some really cool things. So the weather idea, I think, is super cool. This is a little silly, but apparently there's some poop physics, and your poop will roll down hills. I noticed in the video here, occasionally you see the animals kick the poop. I think that's kind of gross and hilarious at the same time, but what are you going to do about that? Right now, in this part of the video here, you can see the animal, the wildebeest, its legs were wet and the rest of it was dry. I think that's really cool. I just noticed that. So those kinds of details, I think, are really what's going to make this game spectacular. So water apparently now has volume, and that's going to allow us for underwater viewing structures, because you can use in-game wall pieces to hold back the water, and that's super cool. I don't know if that means streams or not, or rivers. Flowing water is probably not something that's really going to happen. I'm curious how they're going to implement it. I mean, we haven't seen anything about running water yet. Pardon me as my cat leaps up on our printer and starts meowing at me. But yeah, I'm curious to see just how that's going to work. But the simple fact that we have sort of water physics with underwater viewing is super cool. I wonder if you can have complete underwater viewing or if it's only partially submerged. I'm not sure yet. We're going to hopefully find that out before release. But yeah, super pumped for underwater viewing. One of the big things they were really proud of in this playthrough video was their piece-by-piece climbing structures for chimps, and I'm assuming other animals that need to climb, which is fantastic. Instead of just, here is play center 1, here's play structure 2, you'll be able to build your own play structures. And apparently there's going to be some sort of tick on scenery whether or not it's climbable. So they can climb on trees, they can climb on lots of different things. She mentioned casually, watch out for where you put your roofs. I wonder if it's possible to build an enclosure poorly and then your animals can escape. That'd be really neat. But that's an interesting dynamic, and I'm curious to see how they do that. I doubt that you're going to build a platform with logs or planks. I bet you're going to get a quote climbable platform, quote climbable logs, quote climbable this, climbable that. I bet you that's how it's going to work for most of the pieces. I don't think you'll be able to build change the size of a platform. I bet you those are set pieces, but we'll see. We'll see. They showed safari jeeps, which is super cool. So now we have 2 confirmed transport rides, a train and jeeps. That's neat. That would make Azuri Gardens a lot easier, being able to include jeeps. I'm excited for that. They really pumped up the multiple animal enclosures idea, like having animals that are simpatico together in enclosures, because that's how they would be in the wild. And the thing they brought up was the zebras and the wildebeest, they herd naturally in the wild. So if you put them together, they'll be happier than if they're just separated. I think that's also points to better management than we might see in Planet Coaster. I'm excited for that. So I'm also super excited with what they did for the smaller terrarium exhibits, they showed off an iguana, and I'm sure that's how they're going to do the insects and stuff like that. It's pretty neat. I like that you can pick different sticks, different enrichment opportunities for them, and it'll customize the look so that not all of your iguana exhibits look the same. I think that's really a smart way to do it. But yeah, I'm excited for that. So now, there are some things that I was a little bummed about when when they showed this off. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. For example, the no driver for the Jeeps thing is kind of a bummer. It's automated, I guess. It looks automated, at least, they're on electric track, which is a bummer because then you have to have that track placement, which makes it impossible to make it look natural. And I would prefer it to have an actual Jeep that a person needs to drive, and that they could be giving information on the animals as they're going around. I think that'd be really cool if they could implement that. But as of now, it is a driverless safari Jeep, which I guess beggars can't be choosers, but it feels like a missed opportunity to me. I'm also not too keen, and we're about to see it right here, I'm not too keen on the way the animals look when they eat. I'm not sure there's a better way to do it. they don't really munch on the food. They just kind of hang around, and the food just casually disappears. I was like, that's kind of weird. Again, I'm not sure there's a better way to do it, but I do like they mentioned that if a keeper walks in with food, the animals might start making their way to the feeder before the food's there. That's kind of neat. Like, they get trained. That's kind of cool. So, but to be honest, as of now, those are my only major cons until we get to see more gameplay and more of how the game's going to actually function. Minor things at the end of the day, which makes me feel pretty good. So now I have questions, things that are still not answered, things that I want to know more about, things that we'll see how they end up. My first one is they mention how each animal is an individual. It has individual needs and wants and this and that. And they talk about how it has DNA, and it uses its DNA, as it does with breeding from generation to generation. The DNA influences the way the animals look and stuff, which is fantastic and really incredible. However, my question is, how individual is each animal here? I hope they're not overselling that. It almost feels like the quote simulation evolved tagline. I'm a little worried that people are going to expect too much from that. My thought is, as long as, like for giraffes, your species, you're meeting all those boxes for their terrain and their enrichment, it doesn't matter what their DNA is, they're going to be happy. So I don't think you're going to have like an animal that's like ornery, like an angry animal, or an animal that's always unhappy regardless of, I don't know if that's going to be a thing. So just how individual really are all these animals? I'm still a little skeptical on that one. And then another thing I want to know is, are there different sizes of terrariums? Like that iguana exhibit is really tall. I'm curious just how much customization are there in the actual aquariums, the terrariums for the animals. Will we get to pick the size, or is the size determined by the animal that's going to inhabit it? I'm probably guessing it's that second one, so we'll have to see what happens with that. And then my biggest gripe, I guess, is scale. It's Planet Coaster scale. Like, I don't know why you would expect anything else, but Planet Coaster scale, which is like everything's going to be a little oversized, a little big. And sometimes those peeps, they don't jive with the animals. Like, the peeps are so stylized, and they're great. I love the stylized peeps. And for coasters, it was fine, but stylized peeps with hyper-realistic animals, it's throwing me off a little bit. But I totally get like wanting to have the same universe, and I love that like the chimps or the wild dogs were playing in a gulpy box. I thought that was great, neat little touch. So these questions I have though are still relatively minor. I don't want this to be a hype video, like, yeah, get excited, because I don't want to make those kinds of videos, which is why I haven't been making videos on every little bit of information that comes out. I haven't been doing that. Those are all over. You can get those other places. I thought you might want to hear about what I have to say, so that's why I gave you my 2 cents. So this is more of me trying to be as honest as I can. I'm not going to lie, I'm hyped. They did their job at E3. I am excited for Planet Zoo. I am really excited for Planet Zoo. After my most recent trip to the Houston Zoo, and we're going to be going to the Brookfield Zoo next week in Chicago, I've been looking at zoos through a whole new lens now ever since this game was released. And I'm already getting inspirations on the things I want to do for mine. So I guess it's not all bad. I guess Frontier I think did a really good job at E3 and did a great job of showing off their game in the best possible light, as you can tell, because the negatives that I have are very small and very insignificant. So I guess with that being said, it's going to be time to wrap this video up. I've been ranting now for 14 minutes. So if you enjoyed, if you're new here and you're excited for Planet Zoo, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because we're going to be doing Planet Zoo on the channel once I get my grubby little mitts on it. We're going to be doing it a lot, I think. I think we're going to be playing the crap out of this game. If you're here because of Planet Coaster and all that stuff, don't worry. We're still going to be doing all that stuff. If you like simulation games and you like them done creatively, realistically, that kind of thing, then this is the place for you. And go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this particular video, please hit the like button and leave some feedback. What are you most excited for Planet Zoo? Or what is the thing that you took away from E3 if you've been following the game over the last week? What are some concerns you still might have? That kind of stuff. Let me know in the comments. Let's get some dialogue going. And last but not least, make sure you have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever. And I will see all of you for the next Planet Zoo video, whenever and whatever that may be. Take care, everyone. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.